Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, if I could just be allowed, I had mentioned in my earlier question about the rental, and I wish the de facto leader of PAPI was here, de facto deputy leader, I should say, of PAPI was here. It was during his time when the leader of PAPI was the de facto leader of PAPI, Honorable Prasad. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the SVT days, Nasilabata House, which I mentioned, sir, the rent for that, which entered into long-term agreement for old cinema, $61,881 per month, VEP. Annual rental, $742,572 VEP a year for that building. That's the kind of tenancy agreements that previous governments at SVT had entered into. Nearly $750,000 a year we're paying for the junk building, 20-year lease or whatever it was. And that's where the money is going. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Tuisawao does know that I have answered this question partially the other day. As announced in the budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we have allocated $50,000 to carry out a scarce skills review in the civil service. Mr. Speaker, sir, this allocation will in fact fund research that will identify those highly skilled positions across government and further identify the underlying reasons contributing towards the scarcity of that skill. For example, Mr. Speaker, sir, surveyors in the Ministry of Lands, local tertiary institutions do not offer degree-level programs, which means that diploma-level graduates actually need to undertake longer years practical to in fact become a registered surveyor. And specialized skills cannot be gained in the country. Furthermore, surveyors choose to work in the private sector because the remuneration actually is a lot higher. Recently, the head of our climate change division was poached by a UN agency. We had, for example, the head of our communication section, the guy who rolled out all the groundbreaking work we did a few years ago. He's been poached by the World Bank. He's now become the regional expert for them and laying out projects across the Pacific. We have, for example, some of the nurses. Of course, because of the pandemic, a lot of overseas countries are requiring our nurses. We have Indian nurses moving across to UK. They're providing services there. We actually have a lot of private sector organizations that are getting to the medical field. So the private health hospitals like Dias opened one up, and various other people in Walu Bay, others are being opened up. They're also being poached. They poach these young, trained or good trained nurses in the system, some of them 10, 15 years. Now they're going to these private institutions. So obviously there's movement of labor across the different organizations as the global trends change, and of course trends within our country itself changes. For example, huge demand for IT specialists, not just in Fiji, but of course in Australia and New Zealand. They're poaching some of our best and brightest. We also need our ITC center to be run properly by good people, young trained people, or older trained people. So this is what we're looking at in terms of the scarcity of the skill sets, but also retention is critically important for us, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think, but the other point that also needs to be made is not only about wages or salaries. It's also about having a right work environment. As we mentioned earlier on, we need to provide good workplaces for them. They need to have all the tools. They need to work in offices that are salubrious, that are actually enticing for them to stay in. They need to have proper ventilation, proper lighting. People want those types of things. They need to be able to understand and know and feel confident in the system that if they perform, they're a high performer, they will get recognized for that high performance. They're not going to be actually promoted based on seniority, but on capacity and capability and what they can deliver. And that's what they need to feel confident about, because workplace environment is not just about wages and salaries, but it's about the actual environment itself that you work within, and also having the confidence in the system to know that if you're a high flyer, you'll be recognized for that. If you want to apply for jobs, everybody will be treated on a level playing field. And that's what actually helps people stay in jobs. Thank you, sir.